in legislature, so he won't be with us tonight. So I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is consider approving the minutes of May 19th meeting. Hey, David, we started the meeting.
Did you get the? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
The first item on the agenda is consider approving the minutes from the May 19th meeting and sign the warrant.
I move we accept the minutes.
All seconded, all those in favor? Second item, to choose the cruiser bid. We have a copy of some bids here.
Yeah, I've got Mike Sayers and Chief Tracy, Officer Mike Sayers and Chief Tracy from the police department to explain to what you're looking at. Mike, you've got this cruiser bid sheet that we all have.
Yes, I do.
You have a spare one.
Yeah, I've got.
So I'd like to turn it over to Mike.
And I brought my resident expert, so he's our cruiser guy.
Good.
Thank you. So we had 3 bids here. We had an Explorer, a Durango, and a Tahoe. And we decided to just automatically dismiss the Tahoe because of the large price difference there. And we had the Explorer that came in at $33,993, and a Durango that came in at $36,497, which is a difference of about $2,503. And a couple of things I want to talk about was the differences between the Durango and the Explorer. So the Durango is about $2,500 more up front, and what I did was I took a 3-year comparison of a 2018 police utility Ford Explorer and a 2018 police utility Dodge Durango, both with 100,000 miles, to inspect them out value-wise. In the current market, the Durango is worth $6,925 more than the Ford. So there is a $2,500 upfront cost more, but we get more value in the back end of the Durango. And a couple other contributing factors to shift towards the Durango are, I had the Kennebec County Sheriff's Office fleet manager reached out to me, and he has some lightly used parts from a Durango that they had recently stripped that we can get at a very reduced cost. So that will save us money in upfitting the Durango. We also have had some interesting issues with our current Ford, the newest vehicle, the 2021, I believe it is. It's been in the shop quite a few times for warranty issues, and it's got less than 20,000 miles on it. The major concern we had was it stalled out in a chase, and the sergeant had to pull off the side of the road, restart the car. We've had a lot of problems with it stalling when you go to turn around in the vehicle. The key stopped working, we had to get the door mechanism replaced, so there's been some issues with the Ford.
Is this a common issue with these vehicles now, or is this something that's a one-time deal with ours?
So the warranty work on the door mechanism, I haven't heard of any other issues on that, and there's no known recalls or technical service bulletins on the stalling issues at this point, which I'm sure will come out over time. It's probably just reprogramming of a computer unit or something like that, but nothing's been released at this time. So back on the Durango for a minute, we do get more cargo space for that. It's got advanced technology in the keys so that we don't have to take keys out of our pocket to get in the car anymore. It's like a touch sensor and go. And the last point I want to put on the Durango is there's a stealth safety system in it for officers. So if an officer is parked on the side of the road and it's dark out and they activate this system, and I had personal experience with this system, I had it on a Dodge Pursuit vehicle that I had at the Sheriff's Office. If somebody walks up behind you, it uses the backup sensors to tell you that someone's coming up behind you, and it just gives that officer that extra time that they may need parked on the side of the road to address somebody that might be sneaking up on them. So all in all, the net gain with going with the Durango was $4,421.50 in the green for us, and we recommend going with the Durango. Thank you.
Does that have that 700 horsepower Hellcat engine in it?
It does not.
What has it got from engine in it, Mike?
It's got a 5.7.
5.7
8-cylinder, yes.
And what's the Ford Interceptor have in it?
The Ford Interceptor has the V6 3.3 liter.
Does the Dodge Durango offer a V6?
The Durango does offer a V6, but I don't believe it's available in the Pursuit rated model.
Do you know what the price difference between the V6 model and the V8 model
I
is?
don't, but I'm sure it's in the spec sheet. I hope it is.
So what's the difference between the pursuit rated model and the model with the V6?
So the model with the V6 is special services vehicle rated. It's an administrative rating for a vehicle, not assigned to pursuit for patrol function.
Right.
So I believe the reason that the V8 is in the Dodge is to get that pursuit rating because it has to meet certain specifications with acceleration, speed, braking, so on and so forth. But to answer your question on the cost difference, it's $29.95 is the MSRP. I'm not sure what our cost is. It's built into the quote.
So it is cheaper probably?
Yes.
One question, Mike.
Yep.
The materials that would come out of an existing cruiser into a 21 are not going to fit into a 21, correct?
We're not
So cage and stuff out of...
But we're not trading the car this year today, so we're not going to be as strict.
So all that stuff would be new anyways?
We would be buying them.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if you stuck with the Ford, because the dimensions, Ford put the electronic parking brake lower in the center console, so you have to buy a new kind of center console, and the cage, the dimensions are different.
And that was my point in support of it, that no matter what you're going to do, you're going to buy all the
Either
stuff.
way.
Right. So this is a huge opportunity for us to get these parts off a strip car at reduced cost.
So we're comparing the Ford Interceptor and the Durango, correct?
Yes.
On the Durango, the base price is like 36 compared to 40, but there's 6,500 options.
Where?
Am I reading that right on the summary sheet, first sheet?
Where is that on?
That's on your summary sheet, Mike. This is the sheet that they've got. I've got a copy here if you don't have it. That's-
I'm sure I have it here, but thank you.
So as I follow your rationale, the Durango is a more powerful vehicle. It's got a lot of advantages, but its base price is cheaper. But they've got 6,400 options. What are those options?
So I believe that those options are in the rest of the cruiser bid, the breakdowns of the codes for each additional. So here, this is the Durango. I have MSR 36.
Yeah.
And then 64 or 6,445 is probably going to be this portion. This code is included with the pursuit rated Durango, the 2995 V8. And then it would be 120 for the bucket seats in the back. This is a skid plate. It just helps us, from damaging the components underneath. Towing hitch, the Spotlight 545. Deactivating rear windows, $75. We've had an incident where a person put the window down and jumped out. The fleet key alike, that just gives us option or extra keys for the vehicle so we can keep one in the station.
I think, Don, they're common options
The
for
Ford-
police vehicles.
But the Ford has all those things in the base price.
No, those will be, let me grab that. Okay, so Ford. Oh, this is the, where's the Ford? I'm sorry. So the base price in the Explorer, or the police utility, is $40,845, and that includes, there are obviously a few different variable packages that get included. So you've got Spotlight $395. This is a new feature I'm not familiar with. It's a safety feature to take the key out and lock the cruiser, $260. And I think what they do is some of these, they include the features in that base price. And that's probably why the base price on the utility is higher than the base price on the Durango, because they're options versus standard.
So I guess my question though is, are these two vehicles, are there more things in the Durango?
Yes.
And what are the, so as we look at this, if the Ford doesn't have $3,000 worth of things that we really want, if we were to put those in, it would put the Ford price up to the Durango? So I guess I'm looking at the options and saying, are they comparable cars that have been bid out, or is the Durango a much better equipped car?
The Durango is better equipped, and that's just because it has an officer safety package where most of these items that you see on here, or that we speak of, like the stealth system and so on and so forth, those are included at no additional cost. If you wanted to add that on Ford, it would have to be ordered from the factory, and that would boost the price up with options. So,
And I guess we're comfortable that, what is it, 6 years? You started out by saying the value of the vehicle in 6 years.
3 years.
3 years.
yeah.
But we'll keep it for 6, right?
Well, we generally keep them for 3 to 4, depending on where it is in the rotation.
But mileage-wise, both were compared 3 years, 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
The Durango spec'd out $6,924 higher in value than the Explorer.
Is the Ford Interceptor you have now, what year is the one you're having trouble with?
I believe it's 2021. I think they made the 2021s, and that's why we had to wait a year and a half to get it.
Yeah, that was the one that we waited
So
for.
you already have a 2021, and that's the one you're having trouble with?
Right.
I didn't know what year they started their new model. I remember they had a
Yeah,
new model.
they skipped the year. Because what happened was they skipped the year to change the dimensions and change the design.
Yeah.
And then they contracted it out to a different plant, out away from the normal plant. That plant ended up getting shut down, so they all got back ordered and went back to the original plant to be built.
And the newest one is the Sergeant car, so it gets used the least of all the other cars, and it's used by fewer people than all the other cars.
And it's not holding up.
Well, I mean, I know I drive it every once in a while because it has a trailer hitch on it. When we take the trailer out, the speed trailer out, I use that. I don't like the thing personally compared to the other ones. It's just different.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things with it that are just different.
It's very quirky.
How much do we have budgeted for it this year?
45.
45.
Yeah. Of
So,
course, that's to include all the stuff, stretching,
right.
equipment and radios and stuff.
So with that being said, I think these guys are the professionals that are going to make a decision on the best vehicle. If we have no policy in place that says we have to take the lowest bid, I think we're going to be better off with the Durango if we can get reduced price parts to outfit the Cruiser. You're almost going to break even anyways by the time you outfit it.
Did they give you any estimate on mileage on when this is a bigger engine or gas mileage?
Yes, it's combined is 17, the Ford's combined is 19.
19.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest, the only concern I have about the Durango is the 5.7 V8 in it. Because, you know, you've got younger people gonna get on there, we're in a small town, and it's real, all that horsepower is kind of intoxicating. I know, I've been there, and that's my only concern.
Sure. And I think that can be well regulated through the supervisors and through other systems.
I've always been under the consideration that a bigger engine in the car, not having to drive it so hard, seems to last better than putting a 4 or a 6 and then driving the you-know-what out of it to get what you want to do.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it does seem to me that you're trying to do that same work with a smaller engine. If you're just riding around, it doesn't matter, but when it comes to serious
Yeah.
chase, you work that little engine pretty hard, I would think. I don't know.
And we do have systems in place where we can monitor speed.
Yeah.
No, I know you do.
I don't bring that up a
I mean,
lot. You guys don't pick them up a
I've
lot?
done that job, so I know what it's like when your adrenaline's cranking and it's saying car 14 stepping up and you get all that horsepower, you're stepping it up.
Yep.
And,
Speaking from experience.
No, right.
I haven't got the hearing aids in, so if you mumble it, I'm not gonna hear you.
Do we have other companies that we have reached out to?
We reached out to 4, and we got back 1, and that's pretty common.
Quirk,
Because,
Quirk,
well, Quirk,
yeah.
Quirk does fleet prices for, you know, a lot of departments throughout the state, so it's pretty common for them to have the best price come in, so it's normal for us to hear back just from them. Once in a while, we'll hear from O'Connor's, or we'll hear, you know, even from Ray Haskell once in a while, but they're not even in the ballpark every time they do, and they know that. It's hard for them to compete.
And Quirk also has their dealerships in Bangor, so they're able to grab all these different brands and still undercut the price.
Yeah, you can get about any brand you want from Quirk.
Yes, yes, you can.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything, Bob?
Good. Did you make a motion?
I can, I'd make a motion, we go with the Durango, based on the
Second.
chief's judgment.
Any other discussion? We got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job, Mike.
Thank you, I appreciate your time,
It's
guys.
gonna get you seven.
Have a good night.
I wanted to try it.
All right, you're the first one to drive it.
No, you know,
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Jen. See you later, guys. Thank you.
sewer budget presentation, we have Mr. Boyd Snowden here, our town engineer.
Start it off and...
Well, I mean, Boyd has put together the budget, and he's here to present it. There is one addition which Boyd's going to talk about. It's time to replace the truck. And a little less 10, if you're driving rear-wheel drive, she's pretty much used up. It doesn't represent well, so having said that, Boyd, the floor is yours.
Yep, I'll just take a minute here before I get going and just hand these out, just a couple things.
Sure.
Oh, it's two-tone.
That was the ink on my color printer, so
Oh,
it does make it jazz it up a little bit though, doesn't it?
it makes it look worse, yeah.
You trying to make us think it's rusted in the back?
No, that was all my color printer, so.
You're pretty hard on your vehicle.
I know, right?
Money colored print on this paper then.
So, thank you for allowing me to come and talk tonight. So basically, our budget, you'll see, is really not a lot of change to it, as has been the case for the last several years. Some of you may recall, we did increase the rates back in 2015, and it seems like those rates have been holding well. We've been doing things we can do to try to cut some of our expenses down, and that's been reflected in our fund equity value that the little chart that I provided. But I'll just go down through and just real quickly give a narrative summary of all the different line items, and then we can talk about the fund equity value real quickly. Starting superintendent's salary, there was a 3% COLA increase that I believe the council had approved previously. Clerical pay, there's a pretty significant drop on that from historically. And I think that was, Gary, you might be able to explain that better than I can as far as a reduction.
Our deputy town manager shares a lot of her responsibilities with other departments, and they had a lot of her work plugged into the sewer department, and which in fact most of her work is between the town office and the public works department, and so we've reduced the amount of time that she spends or value on this department.
Weekend labor and summer labor, that remains unchanged this year. Employee benefits, there's a cell phone amount there that basically I use my own personal cell phone, so there's an amount that I guess the council has approved for other people in the past, so Gary's included that this year. Some minor benefit increases as well as a retirement that the council had previously voted on. Moving down to telephone, we actually reduced that budget item based upon historical values. At least the last couple of years we've been well below budget, so we took money out of that and put it into our sewer system upgrades and maintenance, which is really the big line item on the group here. Electricity remains unchanged. We kept that unchanged this year because this will be the first full year since we get the solar power benefit. So we want to be a little cautious with that. Looking at this year's number, we're under budget right now by 6,000, so I expect us to be at least in that range, if not a little better next year, so we might be able to adjust that in next year's budget down. Water remains unchanged. Equipment maintenance remains unchanged. Sewer plant maintenance, we did increase that $3,000, and that really encompasses pumps, any of the different mechanical components we need. We've been running around 7,700 in that in the last several years, and really had underfunded that budget line item, so we decided to bring that up this year to more realistically represent what we're spending in the sewer plant maintenance. Sewer system upgrades and maintenance, you'll see on the budget narrative, which is in your packet. We have broken that out with the annual cell phone access for the meters, which are now installed on Lower Oak Street. We had talked about that last year, I believe, at last budget time. So those are installed. We're tracking data now on that. Raising sewer manholes on a number of streets: Fairfield, Main, Church, Railroad, Deer Run, Hubbard, and First Park Drive. I've also included $5,000 this year in a new technology. Waterville's had this for a few years. They actually purchased this device. It's called the SL Rat, and what it is, it's an acoustic technology. So basically you put it in an upstream manhole and a downstream manhole, and it'll send acoustic sound waves through the sewer, and it'll tell us you've got partial blockages. It'll tell if you've got sagged pipes. Kind of gives you a quick assessment of your system. The insurance companies, we've had one backup that I can recall since I've been here. One sewer service where we backed up into a customer's residence, which is never a great thing for obviously the customer. That in fact was a partially blocked pipe from roots that just got to a point where it finally backed up to their home. It cost the insurance company around $13,000 for that cleanup and repair. So the first question the insurance companies always ask is, when was the last time were you in that section of pipe? When was the last time you cambered it? Well, cammering, about 7,000 feet of pipe costs about $20,000, so we can't cost effectively camera the whole system. And these camera companies are all tied up in places throughout the state. So this SL Rat technology, Waterville found it through an EPA document they had found, and they've had great success with it in kind of honing in on the areas they need to focus on. So it kind of gives you a quick assessment, it gives you a rating, good, poor, fair. So what you do is you go through your system, and you can do about 10, I think they said 10 or 11,000 feet a day. So two people can really motor throughout the system. So my intentions is to see how this works on our system, get some areas where maybe we can concentrate our efforts and focus our efforts on the CCTV inspection, so we're not cameraing decent pipe, so we're cameraing the ones that are real bad. And the real benefit from my standpoint is really less about inflow and infiltration, although that's part of it. It's more about ensuring for our customers that we've done everything we can do to prevent a backup in their home. I mean, it's not fun for them, it's not fun for us to have to go there and help them with that. It's a bad situation. So with this new technology, I think you're going to hear more and more towns go to this. Waterville loves theirs. The cost of them are like $25,000. So it's not something that I want to recommend rushing out and buying right away, but I think, we can rent it for a month for $5,000, and we'll see how that works, and if that works well, maybe we do that for a number of years. But the benefit to us as well with the insurance company is now I can say to them, every year we put something to our pipe. We know the condition, at least the best of our capabilities, we know the condition of our whole system every year. So that hopefully will help us in insurance, but it'll also help us hopefully with the customers and avoiding any backups. So
Where do you rent that for?
Where?
Yeah.
There's a company out of Massachusetts that rents them. They sell them, but they also have a rent program as well. So it's kind of a new technology, not a lot of, I've done actually a training session. I spoke about that and I used Waterville as an example. It's a pretty slick rig. I think it's going to be somewhat of a game changer for all these sewer. I mean, in the past, the sewer, you didn't worry about it until it backed up in somebody's house or started spilling out on the manhole, and then you hadn't dealt with it. That's the way we all dealt with it over the years, right? Well, now technology is such that we don't have to wait for it anymore. We should be proactive and not reactive, so that's kind of a big addition.
Question. So when does the insurance company get involved and ask that question? I mean, they don't ask that prospectively, when have you scoped the pipes? They just, if my town sewer backs up, then the insurance company comes to you.
That's the first question they ask me is, when was the last time you were in that pipe? So,
Well, how, then what do they do? If you say, well, we've never done it, they still got to pay.
they're still gonna pay. So yeah, I don't really know, unless they put it on, check it off a list, so, okay, we're gonna get back to them when the rates come around next year. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Yeah, this is through MMA risk management, Bob, and so when they ask these questions, it bites us in the butt later down the road, because they come and do inspections, and there's new things that we have to do to bring things into compliance, so that's one of the consequences of them asking it, because every time we use MMA, there's a series of questions that come with the claim.
But MMA insures the loss for the town of Oakland.
Yeah.
They don't care about me on Church
No,
Street.
we're talking about our insurance company's gonna take care of that house.
Right.
And
Right,
that's-
take care of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
So
had.
the user probably doesn't have sewer backup insurance as part of the homeowner.
No.
Okay, now it kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
sorry, yeah, no, and that's actually one of the things that we tried to, not, most people's homeowner insurance doesn't carry if it backs up. They'll fix things in your house, but as far as the broken pipe that's out leading to the road, they don't pay for that. That's a rider you have, then, because nobody really knows about that, and then you're looking at usually a $5,000 or $6,000 cost, so.
So how many times have we had to pay?
I'm sorry?
How many times have we had to pay
Oh, this
or
is,
the
wow.
insurance company paid in the last 5 years for?
Just the one on Oak
Just
Street.
the one on Oak Street that, since I've been here, there was actually another one on Oak Street years ago when Dan was here. Same problem, roots that was in, I think Bob Milton's house on Christmas Day. Those are the two big ones that I'm aware of. But on a good thing from the town standpoint is, I think it was $13,000 or $14,000, this loss, if you will, that the insurance company paid. The lady I talked to at MMA said they've got claims that are into the $500,000, $1 million range for businesses that get flooded out, and now you've got equipment and all this stuff we were fortunate to have it that inexpensive, but
It is upsetting for the landlord.
it is. It's not a good situation. So to me, this is a new technology that is at our disposal, and I think it's our duty, or my duty, to present that to you folks that think this is something we should be doing.
Definitely.
Even if it's just renting for a month, I think we can cover the system in a month, and at least we can sleep well knowing we've done everything we can physically do.
But if you do most of the system or all the system or whatever, and everything looks good, you wouldn't have to rent the camera thing, which is quite expensive, right?
Right.
Is it usually Waterville you get to do that, or
What's that?
who do you usually get to do that camera?
Oh, the
thing?
camera, well, I usually bid it out, it's usually Eastern Pipe Services or Ted Berry Company and Jay.
Okay.
It's either of them, they're the two big players. I always offer it to Lane, I think their office right in Fairfield, but they haven't quoted in the past.
But if everything looks good with this, there wouldn't be any reason unless you,
Unless,
Something wrong.
just because one of the things that I talked to the council about, I think, we're in the 5th year of like a 7-year cycle where I want to get the whole system cambered, so we have a kind of a baseline. So other than that, we wouldn't have to target things. Then hopefully at that point, we can use the SL rat to do a quick check, okay, where's the areas we gotta pay attention to our system, and if something comes up, or a couple areas come back fair or poor, then obviously we're calling them up and getting them right out there, so.
So it's kind of like in the health field, you're gonna go get an x-ray to see if there's something wrong, and then you'll have to get the MRI after the x-ray.
Yeah, that's probably.
To show you what the problem is.
That's probably, it just gives you it's a quick, easy, inexpensive, but less expensive way than cameraing the whole thing, so, yeah.
So looking at over the next whatever number of years, if this works well for a month at $5,000, what did Waterville pay for the system?
I think theirs was 23, my guess is it's gone up a little bit, so I think you're looking at 25,000 or so.
And that's theirs forever, unless they improve them or something? Do you envision that if this works well, in 2 or 3 years, we'd want to buy one?
I think it'd be worth consideration. I always look at a couple year payback, you know, how long is the payback on this? So, my only question, I kind of want, not that I want to use somebody else as a guinea pig, but I kind of want to see how Waterville, you know, the technology and things, does it deteriorate fast enough over a 5-year period where it wouldn't be worth owning it? Or does it last 10 years and you know, and we'll get our money back and more after that? So yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a wait and see. I'd like to try it for a year or two, and then we'll kind of regroup from there.
I would think that the technology on that is changing quite a lot. You're probably better off to rent one, because you get the latest technology then, and you don't own some out-of-date thing that no parts for.
And the more they get out and about it, I never want to be the first one out of the gate buying something, so I'll let other people do the test drives, and then I'll kind of use their experiences. But Waterville loves theirs, but that's in the back of my mind, Dawn, is that at some point it may be, and again, that is more, it's less for, I've talked to you guys about inflow and infiltration for a number of years now. So the SRAD is less about that, it's more about maintenance of the system. But it will provide some I&I benefit, but its main source is to hopefully prevent blockages in the system. So then moving on, we got a PVC pipe up on Selden Lane that I had hoped to do this last year, but we weren't able to get to that, so I want to include that. That is an I&I item, a lot of groundwater coming in on that in the springtime. Year 5, cleaning and CCTV inspection, again, trying to get the whole system cameraed, so I get my eyes on every stick of pipe in the ground here in the system. Any Waterville Sewer District assistance, $3,000, and then $2,600 in reserve. Maintenance of vehicles, we left that remaining unchanged this year. Insurance remains unchanged. Training also remains unchanged, as does administration, the audit as well. GIS mapping fee, we reduced that to $1,200. Or by $1,200, and basically that's because we're migrating over to the new town GIS mapping system, which is basically everything's ready to go. We just are doing our quality control checking now on it. So I'm kind of moving away from the sewer system GIS mapping, and we'll use that one for the town, so it'll be a one-stop shop for everybody. But I want to keep my current mapping because I want to make sure everything migrates from my old system to the new system. KMD, Waterville Sewer District charges, increased that to $1,000 to reflect historical costs. The Webb Road, Waterville charges, decreased that again to reflect historical costs. The water company readings increased $400 to reflect historical costs. Heating fuel, again, decrease of $358 to reflect historical. Gas and lube, chemicals, supplies and parts, computer equipment and office supplies all remain unchanged. So we did kind of move some things around in the budget this year and try to put more money into the sewer system upgrades and maintenance. The more we can get out of the system, it's going to be the more beneficial to the customers. So we're trying to put as much as we can into that line item while still running the system effectively. And I also included this, just to kind of show you, this is our fund equity reserve, this chart that I provided to everybody. And basically what this shows is, if you remember back in 2015, 2014, after Doug at that time got done paying the rural development loan, I think we had like $9,000 left in the reserve account. I mean, we were down to bare bones, so that's one of the reasons we did the rate increase back in 2015. The records Kelly was able to pull together for me dated back to June of 2017, but you'll see that it's about a $40,000 a year amount that we're putting into the reserve account. So we built that up. I think at one point it was $300,000 or $400,000 before the big project to connect us to Waterville. So, you know, we're up in the $310,000, $320,000 range again. So we built up some nice reserves where we should have to take care of any emergencies or other needs in the system. So I think that's important to know that financially I think we're in pretty good standings. And so the other part, the final part, I guess, as far as my budget goes, one of the things Gary and I talked about this year, I think my existing pickup is a 2009. I think Doug had told me when he was here that I think they had on like an 11-year cycle or something for replacement. So last year we were talking about it, but because of COVID, we pushed it off a year. I'd like to look at replacing the existing 2009 with just a regular Chevy pickup truck with the extended cab to haul some of the equipment, like camera and things like that.
And this is going to be a utility vehicle, just like any of the other vehicles that we buy. There'll be a no frills package, straight steel wheels, and
Yeah.
You don't have a quote on that yet?
No, I really wanted to just kind of present this tonight to get a feel from you folks, and I've got the RFQ ready to go, just assuming I'm authorized to go ahead and proceed with that.
So you would take the money for the new vehicle out of the
reserve.
Out of the reserve.
Yeah.
What's the single user fee for
Like a
a resident? Yeah.
Jan, what is it? It's $2.50 a unit, and it's about, on average home,
$5.25 per cubic unit plus
$5.25. How about an average home is probably, what do you think?
120 per quart,
How much?
120 per quarter.
So probably
So
$400 to $500
$500 a year for a single family home.
Yeah,
That's per quarter, right?
per quart.
So it'd be $400 to $500 a year for an average, yeah.
And do we know how that compares to other places? Fairfield, Waterville, Wendell?
I don't know as far as I know Waterville is very low. They're the lowest in the state, but Fairfield, I think we're in line, or maybe even a little better than Fairfield and Winslow, but I can check on that. I'm not
Okay.
100% sure.
we've had that comparison. We've done that, I think, a couple of years ago.
I think we did it at the rate increase too.
With the rate increase, we did, you know, and what happened with that rate increase, you weren't here during those time period, but when they engineered the new system, the pumping station, the engineering service, or the company that helped engineer that, told the town that we needed to increase our rates. Well, that didn't happen because of the wrath of public opinion. And so you kept using money out of the reserve to supplement the cost of operation, and we didn't have enough money to do any repairs. $9,000 when I came into this job, and next year we would have been borrowing money to operate. So we made some changes in a hurry. We increased 35%, I believe. It was a big increase. And we were higher than a lot of the competitors around because of that. But over time, people have caught up. And so we're not that much higher than the average town our size. It might be, we're not as high, so we haven't done that study for a while.
Maine Rural Water does do a evaluation every year of sewer departments, and I can get that information, so it's good information for us to have.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, if we have a nice reserve, it sounds like we do, then unless we have some major problems, we can anticipate that those rates will stay pretty much where they are.
And
Yes?
yes, and we really have tried to build the reserve up for a couple of reasons. One is obviously we want to make sure we have some capital, just in case something like COVID happens, or we can keep running things, paying for bills, whatever. But the other benefit of having a reserve is we can get into the larger projects. I mean, we've been kind of nipping at the edges with the inflow and infiltration work with the, $70,000 a year we put into maintenance. That covers a lot of different aspects of the system. $70,000 on a sewer replacement doesn't get you very far. So, what I'd like to do is hopefully at some point come back to you when we've got some numbers. Again, I always like to use payback. I always like to know how much are we going to save in inflow and infiltration, for instance, if we replace this stretch. So hopefully we'll probably be using some of that fund equity. Plus there is some federal, I guess, federal and / state money that's coming available.
The American Rescue Plan. We're starting to get some clarity on that, what we can use it for. And I'm certainly interested in participating in that program, because if we don't use it, somebody else is going to end up using it. And I think that where one of the known uses is your sewer infrastructure. I think that that's going to be an opportunity for town of Oakland to get some of this aging stuff taken care of. And the money still remains the same. It's still, Oakland's going to be allocated $660,000 over a 2-year period, so that's $330,000 a year. And I think some of these big jobs that Boyd and I have been talking about are going to be within reach for that. And I think that the minute we can get a hand on it, we're going to start this process and we're going to get taken care of. It is going to be a pain in the neck to go through the AARP.
So, looking at this, how does that total compare with last year's total?
Actually, it's slightly under last year's budget. Last year's budget we had, budget for user fees, $536,956. Last year was $537,251. So we're slightly under last year.
So the total of this, what we got here. How about revenues?
I think that's where this is coming from. I think our revenues have been up, Jan, wouldn't you say? Because if you look at our past year's expenses versus budget, we've been fairly close.
You've got a sheet like this on there that shows those numbers. And,
But just quick, what did we take in last year on that sheet?
last year, revenues, we budgeted $8,500. This year, we're budgeting $9,000 for revenues.
Total?
No.
No, this is interest penalties, investment income.
No, what's the total revenue we get from the usage of our customers
I don't think we have that number out here.
compared to the budget that we are? I'm just curious to see if
Well,
we're,
it more than covers the budget. I don't have those numbers with me now, because your fund equity wouldn't be increasing. So by the looks of this, your revenues are increasing about $40,000 a year. That's why we're seeing that graph go up.
I don't have the numbers you're referring to, but that's why, this is what I'm looking at, is how are we adding or subtracting from our reserve? And every year we're adding about 40,000, so that tells me that our revenues are up, so.
thinking out loud, so how much should our fund equity be? And that's not a question we have to answer, but I think we have to sort of say, we don't want to keep adding $40,000 or $50,000 every year for the next 20 years. Because what's the sense of having that much? I don't know, maybe there is sense.
Well,
It's like with everything else, there's a goal that you're supposed to have by the auditors. They say, your fund equity should have this much money.
Right. My anticipation would be whatever we can, I'm sure the auditors may have that, MMA may have some suggestions on that, we could find that out, but let's say it's 400,000. My take on it would be, if we're continuing to see this projection of 40,000 a year,
We need to start spending.
we start putting that into more system upgrade and maintenance, and trying to get the payback for the customers. And ultimately, if you remember when we did the rate increase, we said to them, we have 2/3 of the water we send to Waterville is clean water. non-wastewater. So the more money we invest in our system, that's money that the customers are gonna get back over many years. So I think until we get some of those big wins, once we get some of those big wins, that's almost like a game changer, you know, if we start seeing our expenses go significantly down, what we're sending to water bill, both in electrical costs, pumping costs, maintenance, and what we're paying them to treat it. So I think initially, we put it into the system, and we continue to get rid of that old clay pipe, work with people on sump pumps, things like that, trying to get that out of our system. And, you know, hopefully we can stave off either future increases or what have you by those savings. So I'm a big proponent of investing in our own system. So.
Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a comment on your, the pickup truck, a 2021 2500 HD is about 36,000. I just got a bid back, so.
You did,
It's
okay.
right, gonna be right down below.
What's he got for price on that, Dave?
I
I don't think we had a price.
You gotta go to bid on it.
Yeah, we had, I had looked at, I just did on the fleet truck online, GM has a fleet truck that you can go through, and it was like, just about 40,000, 38, 39,000.
On the state bid, we're talking like 36 or so.
And that was
Depends what you're looking for.
3/4 ton though, not for the half ton, right?
Right, it's
We're looking at
2,500.
getting a
It's
half ton.
2,500.
Yeah.
I would suggest going with a bigger truck, that way you can put a plow on it, or at least a plow gear, that way if Jeff's truck ever tanks out in the middle of the winter, we have a backup vehicle to slide a plow on, just if you're gonna think in the future. And a follow-up question to the last conversation, are we looking at expanding our sewer system at all to areas that don't have it?
I think that's part of the comprehensive plan. I mean, there are some definite areas that I think could use sewer. I think it's always a touchy subject because people have septic systems, they don't want to hear about paying, you know, $300 or $400 a year until their system fails, and then they have to drop $7,000 or $8,000, right? So
I think it would all be part of, if we're trying to get business into the community, there's gonna be areas of town that they're not gonna wanna go to because there is no infrastructure.
right.
So,
Right.
a water and sewer parts, not sure where they are, 'cause I don't have a map in front of me, but I think upgrading those areas as well would be a bonus.
There's a couple things that I agree with you. I mean, to me, the more, we are about 800 customers right now, and we've been that way for a while. So the more customers we have, the less everybody has to pay, right? So I'm a proponent of that. There is, we're capped out at a certain amount of, what we can send to water bill, which kind of gets into the I&I thing. So the more I&I we reduce, the more capacity we have for expansion. So I think those two kind of go hand in hand. But I would agree with you. If there are areas of the town, there's a couple that I can think of that we really, from an environmental standpoint and from a customer standpoint, it makes sense to move to. But I think that's something we'll have to be talking to in the coming months or years or whatever. I don't know when the comprehensive plan, when that...
Well, I mean, we've completed that, and the plan is to put together a group so that we can further move forward with what the plan has to say. But the problem is, we've got sewer pipe that needs to be replaced right now, so that's certainly a priority, but I don't disagree with it.
Right, at the same time, we should be strategically thinking, what's our next move?
I agree.
And Camden is, a spot that keeps running across my mind, because we've got stops up there by, just before it comes down over the hill. I mean, they built Dollar General and had to put a septic system out there. I'm surprised they did, and it opens up.
You have a map in your office with the sewer lines all go in town? Is that something you could copy for us next time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got it all on GIS, so I can just print off the whole map showing.
Either email it to us or
Yeah.
bring it or send it.
Okay, any other questions?
Back when the big sewer project was done, the town was already anticipating that and had it either partially engineered or mostly engineered. And then they were looking for shovel-ready projects, I think is the term they used. So we was able to get some of that money to do the rest of that. So, and I don't know, Bob, you talked something about this infrastructure thing, that the legislature is talking about more infrastructure money, and of course there's only 10% of the bill that's real infrastructure or something, but do we have some projects that are somewhat engineered or ready to go, or at least and you talked, Gary, about there might be $600,000 out there for different things, not all for sewerage, but.
Well, I mean, the town can determine where they're gonna use this.
Yeah.
You know, and at some point, we'll talk about what the options are gonna be for that, but priority, in my mind, is that sewer department there,
Yeah.
that sewer system.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've got the Oak Street project there from corner store all the way down.
Yeah,
there.
Lower Oak Street is the oldest stretch, I mean, that's where
So,
the
I mean-
old hotel was, that's in
So
the
you would
low
be
groundwater.
Too long coming up with if somebody came to the door with the money, it wouldn't take you long to have a project that was engineered and ready to go, right?
Right, and we could do the design in-house, I mean, that's what I would do the design in-house, we were ready to go.
I think it'd be a good idea to have some of those things when they're ready, you know, maybe not complete, but, you know, somewhat ready in case,
I mean, that section alone is gonna cost you $330,000.
yeah.
I mean, that's gonna wipe it out.
Yeah, that's, right now, and if, the two places in town that I could see us putting a large investment of money would be Lower Oak Street, I've been talking about that for quite a few years now, and South Alpine Street's another bad one. South Alpine Street, from where the sewer goes, there's a lot of groundwater, a lot of infiltration,
Yeah, I just-
significant volume of that work.
It's worthwhile to have some of those projects pretty well planned out,
Yeah.
so that even if we needed some more engineering other than that you couldn't do on them or something, so.
We can do it all.
Do we need a motion on the vehicle, or are you all set?
Yeah, we're actually gonna need a motion on the budget if you're done with the questions on it, and we would like a motion on allowing us to move forward with accepting bids for the vehicle, and then we'll pick the bids at the next meeting.
I make a motion, we accept the budget as presented and close the vehicle when it comes in.
We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Only two motions.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
The next item is the LED streetlights.
I've been kind of keeping the council in the loop as I've been getting information on this, and I think I've emailed all of you both of these proposals. You've also got hard copies that you had in your box, and I think probably some of you are just looking at those right now. I gave you a summary sheet as well. I kind of put together the nuts and bolts of the program, one-page summary sheet. Affinity, they're local, or as local as you're going to find. They're over in New Hampshire. And they've installed all the street lights in our little region here, Waterville, Fairfield, and Winslow. We're going to be the last town. We went out with Realterm. Realterm has done a lot of main business on the coast. There's a huge price difference between the two of them. And the reason why the price difference is primarily because Affinity actually buys the parts and pieces for these LED lights, and they assemble them at their place there, where Realterm buys the lights assembled. So I think Affinity has a little bit of an up as far as your ability to provide a product that's a little less expensive. The other thing is they promote it with veterans working in their shops. That's what they hire to build these things. I've sent out emails. I think I sent one to you there with Michelle. They're very happy with what their product is. I've talked with other people that have had good experiences with them. They use a company over in Clinton, the electric to do the install of these walls. Who also is a reputable company. And both companies have a 10-year warranty on the lights. They've got, both companies have got the lights, the numbers right, 248. The one thing that I would like to bring to your attention is when we first started talking about these street lights, we decided we were going to run this over a 3-year period. Year one, we're going to pay off the contract, so the town of Oakland owned all the street lights, and we weren't paying Central Power Company a rental fee to use them. Year two, we're going to put $50,000 into an account, and then year three, we're going to put the rest of it in so that we can take care of this. Because we don't want to go out and borrow money to do it. We want to pay cash like we do with most of our stuff. And but after talking with Affinity, they offer a lease program, and where their quote coming at $67,000 or almost $68,000, it really doesn't make any sense to me to put $50,000 worth of street lights in, and then finish it off next year with $17,000 worth of street lights, or $18,000. For one thing, you're risking a price increase, because every year everything goes up. The other thing is, you're waiting to get them all done. Whereas this lease program, we can lease the whole package for 2 years. The cost is going to be $1,700 and some change for interest. And we're going to get them all changed in one shot. If we don't lease them, and we leave the $18,000 worth of streetlights unchanged, the cost of electricity alone is going to be a $3,000 increase. So we're actually saving money by changing them all out and doing the lease program. The way the lease program works is we will pay them $50,000 in the middle of July. And then next year, July 2022, we're going to pay off the balance, which would be $17,800 or $900. $17,989. So it makes more sense to me just doing that. They can get the lights done. We don't have to wait for them. I mean, they'll do the lights next week if we give them the okay on it. I'm going to make a recommendation based on what I've seen with these two contracts and the conversations that I've had with the representatives from both these companies, that we go with the lowest bidder, which is $67,989. Now, the other thing I want to bring to everybody's attention, that some of these towns, Augusta being one of them, they can sit in the computer and they can adjust the volume of the lights. You know, and so if you want to have a romantic set of lights over on Cal Pond Road,
That's
turn
what
them
we
down just a little bit.
That would be good, right?
And if, you know, if you want to have some bright lights, you can turn them up. But let me tell you something. The town of Oakland, we tend to buy Fords. You know, I mean, they're rugged vehicles, they last well. We don't buy the Mercedes-Benz. You know, and going to these basic LED lights are going to save us power. You know, it's going to be maybe the Ford version. But we're not a fancy town. We don't need to go and have all this extra money, $30,000 to go and have so I can sit there and turn the volume up on these lights. I'm not even going to be able to figure that out, to be honest with you. But so I would make a recommendation, Affinity, and keep it basic.
So moved.
We're going to pay the $50,000, so the lease portion is just going to be the last $17,000? That'll be...
No, the whole thing's going to be leased.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure.
What we're going to do is this municipal leasing consultants. I've got another booklet that I've sent all of you that shows the details that I just shared with you. We're going to go into a lease contract with them. They're going to give Affinity the full $67,989, and we're going to give them a check. We're going to pay the leasing company $50,000 in the middle of July, and then we're going to pay them off middle of July next year.
We just have an interest rate to pay off, right?
The interest is actually pretty high. It's 7.05%, I believe, but it only equates to $1,700, and it's going to be less money than paying the full boat electricity for the regular sodium bulbs.
So we don't have 17,000 someplace to just do it?
Well, there's a problem, because when we went to town meeting, they authorized us to pay so much money. And you, as a council, only have the authority to spend $10,001. So, no, we do have the money, but we don't have easy access to it. It would have to involve a town meeting for us to get
It'd
them.
be easier to pay interest on $8,000 than $17,000?
Oh, you're sneaky, Jay.
No, I'm just...
I think this would be a real clean way of dealing with it, and we're still going to save money if we do it this way. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea that this was going to come in so low. I mean, I thought we were going to be looking at $100,000, just like what Realterm gave us, $95,332. That's what I anticipated, what this was going to cost us. But Affinity's hungry, and they want to plug the gap of having all 4 towns in this little region. And they sharpened their pencil. And when they hear the difference, they're probably going to be a little sick to stomach themselves. So
We don't have to do anything about a maintenance contract with anybody at this time, right?
we are going to eventually enter into a maintenance contract, probably with Wiswall, to maintain these things.
Right.
They got a 1-year warranty for workmanship, and if there's a default on the light or something like that. I mean, so that first year, we're not going to worry about that stuff.
Right.
But the next year, I'm gonna put in money, I'm gonna get some estimates, and I'm gonna put in money into the budget.
Yeah, that's, at some point, we will be hiring a maintenance contractor like Wiswell.
And I'm gonna wanna buy a few extra spare of these heads to keep stored someplace, so if something should happen, like a car accident or whatever, we're gonna be able to replace them. But we aren't gonna worry about that this year.
But if we do a maintenance contract with Wiswell, they'd probably keep them on hand if they're doing these lights in all these
They
towns.
very well could, they've got them all, so you're
Yeah.
right, they're gonna have a stockpile of them.
Did you make a motion, Don? We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of going with Affinity and doing a 2-year program?
Thank you.
Unanimous? Thank you. Item 5 is PFOS and PFAS.
Okay, so you probably read today's paper, and I may have talked with most of you, but may not have talked with all of you. So I got a call from Molly King from the DEP, I want to say probably a month ago now. And she told me that in the town of Fairfield, up on the 10 Lots Road, there was some permits issued quite a while ago to spread sludge on some of those fields. I think it's either the field where the tree farm is in Fairfield just across the town line, or those fields right across the road from that, maybe Sturtevant's fields. But anyways, 2 of the homeowners on the upper Gagnon Road, which is Fairfield, found this out and they decided to test their own wells. And then both their wells came back slightly over the 70 million or 7 parts per trillion or whatever it is your well's supposed to test out of 70. So the DEP decided they were going to test some properties up on the 10 Lots Road. They had tested 16 wells up there from the town farm, from the town line all the way down past the dairy farm, and I think some of those houses in that whole development before you get to the railroad tracks. We haven't got any results back on the tests. I anticipate there's a possibility that we will get some positive tests back. And at that point, we're going to be dealing with it. I mean, I've had, I think, 1 or 2 phone calls so far with people on the other end of town questioning this, and I told them that as far as I know, we don't have any permits that have been issued by the DEP to spread the sludge on any of those fields over there. Now, having said that, I found out through the sewer department that we were spraying some of our own sludge on some of these fields.
So, as most municipal sewer systems, DEP was kind of driving people to spread their municipal sludge on fields, help the farmers out. So, we don't know. Yeah, we've actually, DEP has reached out to us. What they're trying to do right now is categorize everybody's municipal waste stream, and there are certain industrial discharges into the sewer system that seem to increase PFOS and PFAS. I mean, there's been talk, I think, in Fairfield, Huhtamaki, paper products, things like that.
Huhtamaki was a big one.
That has spread sludge, anything like that into a waste stream. There was like 8 of them. I just actually sent it off to Jan in an email this morning. Tanneries, which obviously Oakland never had. So there's I don't know, 8, I think, different industrial type uses that I don't think Oakland's really ever had. Jan's going through the stuff for me right now so we can get back to DEP, but we did spread sludge. I don't know which field or whatever, but we may not have any issues with it because of what our waste stream included back in the day.
It may not have had enough concentrate PFAS in it to create a problem. We don't know that. So there's going to be more that's going to develop out of this as time marches on. The newspaper article, I think once we start hearing if we have some positive tests, we're going to have to deal with it. I don't think that we're going to have the same hit that Fairfield has had. I had a long conversation with DEP about this. I'm really, personally, I'm a little bit upset about it because, you know, the thing is, DuPont, anything with Teflon, that was PFAS. And, you know, that was their claim to fame. And they're still making products in these cans of soup that you buy that's coated with this material. So you can still buy it. So, you know, and the DEP issued the permits to spread it, and I have a hard time believing that the taxpayers in these communities are going to have to pick that tab up. The way it works is if we do find that there's some properties that are positive, the state's going to provide drinking water. And the way Fairfield does it is they get a tractor trailer load of bottled water that gets delivered at their fire station, and either the residents can travel down there and pick up enough water to get them through the week, or the town can deliver the water to the residents. They've got a filtering system that they put on these houses, and it takes care of the problem. I've got a filtering system just like this on my house because my well tested positive. I live out next to the Saturday. And I get my water tested annually, and I don't have an issue with it. So these systems do work. So we may be hearing more about it, we may not. I just want to give you a heads up. And the reason why I didn't tell you about it before was because I wanted to get close enough to whether we were going to have positive tests, because I didn't want to create any angst over this if it was a non-issue. And it still may be a non-issue. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think so. I think we're going to have some problems.
Bob, what are they testing the water in your neighborhood for?
We tested Bob's.
This is it?
They tested mine, but the only people that had a positive test that I know of are the people right across the street from me, the Taylors. And they
that
said
was
they
just
never drink the water anyway, so.
Yeah. And that was a tick over the limit, just one little
Yeah.
notch over. It wasn't even enough to really, and they don't want the treatment system, they don't want the water, they've been drinking it. You know, I talked with the Taylors, and, you know, they said, we're all full of it. You know, we've all.
Yeah, that was about a year ago, or a year and a half, well, before the COVID thing. The state came and tested my well and a bunch of other wells, and the Taylors were the only one.
I know down our way that, you know, this farm that they first discovered the trouble, the house that come up with the original thing was 3 miles from that farm. And I'm less than 3 miles from that farm, only on the other side. So.
Depends on the water source.
Yeah, I know. And you don't know where your water comes from. I mean, my well might be from a different place than the well next door.
There's a lot happening, and I mean, in the legislature right now, I'm on a Maine Rural Water legislative committee. We kind of track all these things, and we've testified, or Maine Rural Water's testified, some cases in opposition to some of this legislation that's going on right now, because they've set the standard now at 20 parts per trillion. The federal EPA has it at 70. And things are happening before the science is getting there. The decisions are being made, and there's going to be impacts even to the sewer down the road.
Making decisions before they know the truth.
Fairfield's dealing with people who want tax payment on their properties because of the valuation near mine, near where it's going. And this is what we're going to be looking at. It could turn into a cluster, that's for sure. There's no question about it. Any other discussion on that?
Any other discussion on that? Okay, number 6, choose a real estate bid.
Okay, so we're all familiar what took place here, and I put together a pretty intense RFP. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to be able to compare apples to apples with all these real estate brokers, and I'm sure that at least a few of you probably took the time to read through that. Well, unfortunately, with the real estate markets the way they are, and real estate brokers really don't have to work too hard to go and sell a property. To sit down and ferret all this information out wasn't interesting to many of them. But I can tell you that Caldwell Banker, you've got the packet in front of you, really did a good job. This is a very professional presentation, and it's exactly what I asked for. They covered every one of my questions in detail, and this is our choice. They are looking at listing the property at $950,000 as one piece. They've addressed that in a couple of places in here, and commission rate 7%. They get 10% from just straight land listings. I was a little disappointed in the person that we've used in the past because he chose not to even compete on this, and I can share with you right now, had he competed, he would have gotten the bid. He would have gotten the selling. He would have been the listing broker. But because he felt as though it was unfair, that I've asked him to take this extra step, he didn't feel as though that he was deserving of that, I guess, so. So I'm gonna make a recommendation that we list this property with Caldwell Banker.
Any discussion?
So how many offices did you solicit bids from?
I copied all of you on those. I ended up doing Century 21 in Waterville, Century 21 Mason and Winslow, Tom Munson's mainly real estate in Fairfield,
So there were half a dozen or
and
more.
Brokewood, Sean Marquis' real estate company over in Belgrade. And I forwarded that request through Sean himself, since we've used him so much in the past. And the only one that responded was Don Flutie.
So we have no real estate office located in the town of Oakland. Is that
No,
correct?
That's correct.
And the person, you just said, the person we've always used in the past had a chance to look at this, and
I talked with him.
I saw him on the bid schedule you sent out there.
Yeah, I chatted with him as late as this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. So,
Do we have any, no?
I'm sure that Caldwell, and I'm not against Caldwell, I'm sure that they would do a very thorough job, and they would be a good real estate group to represent us. I guess the only thing that I would be curious about is how they come. I know they got comparable things in there, but 950,000, is that the right place to start?
I'm going to let the professionals make that decision. We know that the market is changing really, really rapidly. And who would have guessed that for a third of an acre we would have got what we paid? This is 40 plus acres, and with 800 feet plus of water frontage up there. So, you know, he's going out of state with us. He is, you know, he's going to market it in the right areas, and he's working for us on it. So
I'm just wondering, you know, do we discuss, are we tied into a 950?
Not at all. You've got a sample contract that he made out with the $950,000 work price. If the council decides that they're going to go in this direction, I'm going to go over and meet with them, sit down and have a conversation. I want to feel comfortable with what their plan is. This is just a bid, because they have no idea they're the only ones that competed on this.
So I guess that was my thought. I have no problems with them doing it. I just don't know if that's the price we should start at.
Well, it might be $1.5 million. Who knows?
Well, we got 250,000, like you said, for 75 foot.
I know. I don't have an issue going with a high price to begin with, and we can drop it down pretty quick. Can't go up. We can always drop it down.
I move we accept the real estate broker and their fees, and then we negotiate where we start.
Okay.
At this price, if somebody bought that, it would be on the books and they'd be paying $16,000 a year in property tax, wouldn't they? Let's do it.
More than that,
Well,
because all those houses are going to be.
well, I mean, this is about $1 million.
I think they're anticipating somebody.
We have a motion and a second to go with Caldwell Banker. Is there any more discussion?
Is that you, David?
All those in favor?
Gary, I have to do my duty for the graduation.
Okay, I've got one more item on here. Every project that we've built has come with its own set of issues. Every project that we've built has come with its own set of issues. The police department, the fire station, and the issues that we're going to be developing with the town office is going to be the price of materials. So I've met with Rick McKenzie. I've got to start getting some hard prices on this project, and he feels as though we should have some redundancy built into the estimate. He thinks that, you know, he's seeing metal prices going up, lumber prices rapidly starting to come down just a little bit, but he doesn't feel confident just making the estimates himself. He'd like to see what another company is doing. We've worked with John Scott for the past 2 projects. They know how we function. They know that we don't want to go over the top on anything. And so we reached out to them to see if they would provide an estimate for us for doing a cost study on this project. And the estimate that they gave us is $2,500 to do this. And if you look at the contract that I supplied with you, and you've got it there in your packet, I've got mine here someplace, John Scott. You go down through that, I know you have, I just got this today, so, the last bullet. Should John Scott Construction be invited to participate in the RFP process for construction management services for this project, and is successful in the process and is selected as a project construction manager, John will reduce his fees by $2,500. So in other words, if they're selected out of the bid process to do this, which I anticipate, based on history, they probably will be, because they sharpen their pencils, and it's good, better than any of them, that we'll get that money back. So I'm making a recommendation per Rick McKenzie's recommendation that we hire John Scott to do a redundant estimate on the costs of the project.
And would we take that out of this property procurement fund that we have, whatever the name it is, I can't...
$2,500 out of the municipal reserve fund.
There you go.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Oh, John?
Recommended Scott, James Scott.
Rick.
To put this redundant bill.
Well, actually, Rick and Boyd and I sat in a meeting on this and we discussed this process. And the reason why we chose John was because they know how we operate.
I realize that, but I guess I'm getting a little concerned about conflict of interest. He's gonna have an unfair advantage when it comes to making an actual bid on construction, if we get to that point. And he's putting an incentive in there to get it.
Yeah, the incentive really, I don't think that the incentive on whatever this job comes in, that wouldn't be the reason. I don't think the council would accept.
Well, I'm not saying that they would. All I'm saying is that it's just how it looks.
Right.
You know, an extra $2,500 is not a lot of money to put that bid together, or that cost estimate
But if we
together.
hired somebody else from the outside, they may bid this completely different than what somebody who's done these last two projects. And that's the key of this, you know, and if John Scott doesn't get the bid, you know, I really hope they do, to be honest with you, because we've had a team that's come in under budget on every project we've done so far. You know, and the bottom line is, I'm looking out for the benefit of the taxpayers, no matter how you slice this thing.
Well, I'm not trying to point fingers on anything, I'm just saying, it's how things are viewed. I guess being an engineer, working for manufacturing, our feet were like very close to the fire on anything like that, but
I've had, again, when Gary and I and Rick met, I've had similar experiences where towns have asked me to, early on, there's no guarantee I'm gonna get the future job, but early on, they said, hey, we just wanna know what we're looking at, can you kinda help us with this? We work with them on that, and I work with them on that, knowing there was no guarantee that, and in some cases, I didn't get the bigger job. It's kind of just, it's another resource. So I think it would have to be, I think the contract can be worded such that there's no carryover from one to the other. It's
addressed in this sheet here. You don't have a copy of that, John? I don't think
another question, is Scott actually doing some estimating for projects for bid right now, so he might have a real close connection to...
Say that again?
Is he presently bidding on any projects where he's putting cost factors together for specific projects in today's
I
schedule?
don't have an answer for that. I don't know. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take these two prices that Rick comes up and John comes up, and obviously this is gonna make a determination whether we're gonna be moving forward with this project. I feel more comfortable having two separate entities coming up with a price than one.
I think I would at this
And I
stage.
think the safety net of John Scott coming out with one, given the fact that he's built both of these projects and he knows what our means are, we're gonna get more of an accurate figure from him than we would from somebody who's never worked with us before. I mean, it's no different than Rick McKenzie.
Yeah,
Really, if you
Rick's
think-
numbers must come from national averages to some degree. I don't know just how his program is set up, but he's got to be using national average numbers somewhere around, probably for this zone area. But
Any contractor that bids on this job will have to go through the same process that Scott is gonna go through for us,
And when
right?
they bid on it, you're gonna have different prices. You know, there's
They're
no
gonna go
different
through
than-
their process, just
Yeah.
like we're having him do for us.
Yeah. No different than our past real estate broker. Did all that work for me up there, traveled a lot, and he didn't get a job, so.
I don't know how they're gonna do this. I mean, 6 months ago, this would have been a completely different amount than it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable how the prices of material have gone up.
And we need to know what this is gonna mean for us, you know, and,
I think we need to do everything we can do to try to be sure we're somewhere near close, and
yeah.
this is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, Rick and I talked about it a couple of times, and we met, so it's 3 times we discussed this. So I'm gonna make a recommendation that we use John Scott and get that pricing going.
You move that, Dave.
Yeah, I make a motion,
Do we have a second? Any more discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Thank you. And do you have anything in your manager's report tonight?
You got it all, sir.
Dave?
I've got a citizen that works for Avangrid, CMP. Wanted to know if we wanted a presentation on the Pine Tree Power. That is the big buzz right now. She's willing to come in and speak with us on telling us what that is if we have an interest.
What that is?
Pine Tree Power, where people, it's a private entity, the citizens are buying the power into their own power company.
The legislative committee approved that other committee, right, a while ago to look into that.
Yep. So that's moving forward, from my understanding,
It
reading the
hasn't gone to
paper.
the full legislature yet, but to come out of committee, I think, has a positive do.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants a presentation,
I'm not interested because politically I'm not interested, but I'll sit quietly and listen if somebody wants to hear.
I mean, I think we can watch it for a little while longer, and if we have questions, we can see if she wants to step in. Just give us an overview of what
Might
it
be a good
is.
suggestion if we think that's going to actually come to fruition. I'm not sure it will.
Maybe when the legislature decides what they're doing, at that point, certainly they would be interested in knowing the details. I think that.
Anything else, Dave?
Just me.
That's it.
Bob?
Nope.
One more summer schedule. Do we want to do that now or do it at our next meeting?
I'll tell you, the way I'm so busy right now that I don't know if I dare to go and skip a meeting, to be honest with you.
Let's wait until next meeting to decide.
Let's wait until next, I got more irons in the fire than you can imagine right at the moment. And I need you guys
Okay.
for my meetings, so. Sorry to say that, had we done that last month, it's been a different story.
John, did you have any? Do you know how the school budget vote came out, Jan? Have you
It
heard?
passed. It did pass, yeah. Or 2 to 1 at Normanton.
Yeah.
Very, very low turnouts. And
I noticed that when I
every
came to vote.
Were you the only one here when you came to vote?
No, your wife was talking to the
Yeah.
ladies, so she'd already voted. And she was staying in here where it was school, having a little discussion with the ladies that were attending the polls.
I was the only one here when I came.
Anything else? Boyd, do you have anything else?
No.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Giving us your presentation, I guess.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
My second is Mo.
All those in favor? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh.
All right, see you here.
Is that
Yeah.
person that wanted to come
Thank you.
speak, is that she a friend of yours?
She's the lady that just bought my house. She works for CMP, which is, yeah, next, what's the next?